Suppose there is a committee of 20 members and you are also a part of this committee. Okay, but there is an important rule with respect to this committee, and the rule is only 5 members will be having the veto power on any decision. And when we talk about the veto power, it means they can take any decision, they can reject any decision, they can pass any resolution on any topic. But despite you are a member, you don't have veto power. You don't have the power and the permission to represent yourself, to represent your committee. So how you will be feeling? Simply very bad. And also maybe you will decide to withdraw from that committee because your representation is not truly represented in that committee. So why I am telling you this story, it is all because you can understand about the United Nations Security Council and the reforms that are needed in this council. What is the matter of the UNSC reforms? It is that we have currently 193 members, but these members does not have the powers to decide on the matter in a collective way. Only 5 members that we call as permanent members have the veto power, and they decide on anything like the resolution on terrorism, the resolution on climate change, the resolution with respect to the war that is occurring between any nations. So does this United Nations Security Council represents inclusiveness? Not. So that is the point from where the debate of UNSC reforms arises. And that's why India and other like-minded countries from time to time raised this concern so that the reforms should be occurred in this organization. And when we talk about the United Nations, it is a very big organization at the international level, formed in 1945 after World War II, so that there is a chances to promote peace, prosperity, collaboration between the nation addressing the global challenges. But all of this may be possible if there is a consensus, if there is a equitable distribution of power within this member. Okay, but that is not true. So that's why the debate is always there to reform the United Nations Security Council. So in today's discussion, we are going to discuss on all of these important aspects, rather like what is organization of the UN, also what are the various structures like United Nations Security Council, the principal organization. Okay, so now we will be starting our discussion. Hello and welcome you all to the Bajirao IAS Academy. Today is 12th of October and we are going to discuss the daily Hindu newspaper analysis. So in today's editorial analysis, we will be discussing on various topics. Like, first of all, we have given you the context. We will be discussing about United Nations security reforms. Again, we will be discussing on the GST Council meet and the reforms which was taken recently. And also, we will be going to discuss the pending appeals with the Information Commission, specifically the State Information Commission. And as per the data, about 3 lakh pending appeals are there with the State Information Commission. So that challenges the accountability, transparency, and also our right to information. Okay. And in the prelims rapid fire, we will be discussing the 2 articles, that is the Operation Ajay, and again the port. Okay, and here I want to ask you a question that in India we have the major port and minor port. Tell me that major port is controlled by whom and minor port is controlled by whom. Here by whom it means whether it is a state government or the central government. Okay, so we will be discussing on all these aspects. Now before starting our session, we have a warm-up session to have a discussion on the prelims previous year question. Why we try to provide you the question? It is all because you can learn which type of questions the UPSC is asking, the difficulty level, and by solving the question, the analytical power as well as the solving the concepts will be clear to you. Okay, so the question is, consider the following statements. Statement 1: pursuant to the report of H.N. Sanyal Committee, the Contempt of Court Act 1971 was passed. Statement 2: the Constitution of India empowers the Supreme Court and the High Court to punish for contempt of themselves. Statement 3: the Constitution of India defines civil contempt and criminal contempt. Statement 4: in India, the parliament is vested with the power to make laws on the contempt of court. So you can understand the question is on the topic of contempt of court. Okay, and contempt of court is very important provision, and it deals with the contempt related to the judiciary. Okay, so the question seems to be little bit lengthy, but there is a trick which has been represented by UPSC in this question. You have to identify the trick. Okay, then after the question will be easily solved. So we will be providing you the solution of this question in the last session of our discussion, and if you are able to solve it now, please do comment the answer in the comment box. And also if you are not able to solve it, don't worry, we will be providing you the solution along with explanation, and the concepts will be clear to you in a good manner. So let's join our discussion. Please share this discussion article with your friend circle, along with like, support, subscribe our channel. Okay, now we are shifting to our discussion, and the first article will be related to GS paper 2, and it is related to United Nations Security Council reforms. So what is the context here? The context is that the ongoing session of the General Assembly is going on, and when we talk about the ongoing session, or when we talk about the United Nations, it is basically an international organization representing 193 countries, and it is a very very big organization that deals with the global challenges. Okay, but when we talk about the structure of United Nations, then we have six principal organization under it. Six principal organization, like we have the United Nations General Assembly, we have the United Nations Security Council, we have the UN ECOSOC yani ki Economic and Social Council, and we have other three organization, and I am not naming that three organization. You have to name in the comment section. Okay, I am testing your recalling capacity here. So that is the point. So with the ongoing session, there is also start of the debate on the UNSC reforms, that is your United Nations Security Council reforms. And why there is a debate? It is all because there is not proper representation of countries in this organization. Why? Because of the permanent members of a specific countries. Which are the permanent member? Permanent members are five. And which are the five? That is your US, UK, France, Russia, and China. These are the permanent members and they are standing since the creation of United Nations in 1945, that is after end of World War II. But this does not represent the present scenario. During the World War II and aftermath of World War II, there was different geopolitical situation. Many countries were not independent. Okay, but now the countries has become independent. There is also growth in the population, the economy. So there is a need to have an institution that represent the present reality, not the reality of 1945. That is the point. Okay, so that's why in this ongoing session, various leaders raised their voice, like the president of Turkey, that is Erdogan. They said that the Security Council has ceased to be the guarantor of the world security and has become a battleground for the political strategies of only 5 countries. Of which countries they are talking about? Yes, P5, permanent 5 country. Okay. And also, when we talk about a United Nations Secretary General, that is Antonio Guterres, they also issued a warning that world has changed, but our institutions have not. That means they all are trying to promote the United Nations Security Council reforms so that the organization should better understand the world, should better represent the world. So that is the point. And why there is a reforms required in the UNSC? Well, there is a important facts and the concepts associated here. Try to understand this. Okay, first of all, as I said, that it does not represent the equitable world. Today we have more than 193 countries, and also in the United Nations we have 193 members. Okay, but this organization is representing the geopolitical reality of 1945, not of today. How? So, first of all, when the United Nations was formed in 1945, the council consisted of 11 members. Okay, out of total members of United Nations 51. So that time 51 countries were the members, and in the United Nations Security Council only 11 members was there. But that represented about 22% of the member state, because that time the total number of member was 51. Okay, but when we talk about today's scenario, we have about universal membership of about 193 member states. But when we talk about the members in the United Nations Security Council, it is about 15 members only. And when we talk about the percentage share of it, it is only 8%. So that time when it was formed, it was 22%. But now we have only 8%. That means the representation has shrinked despite the increase in the number of member countries. So that is the point. That means it does not represent the equitable world. Okay, so after some years of formation, this issue was also raised. So in 1965, the Security Council was expanded to include 4 new members. That's why today in the United Nations Security Council we have 15 members. Okay, and remember, when we talk about the United Nations Security Council, it has 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent members, and non-permanent members are basically elected for a 2-year term based on region. Okay, so that is the point. Now when we talk about further information, it also says that the present distribution of power gives undue weightage to the balance of power of those days. How? Like when we talk about Europe, so currently Europe represents only 5% of the world population, but still Europe controls 33% of the seats in any given year. And take an example, like when we talk about India, it represents about 140 crore population, which is much higher than many of the countries of the Europe. So India has not been given the permanent seat, but these countries that doesn't represents the bigger share of population, the bigger share of economy, despite they has been given the permanent seat. So that is also important concern. And also when we talk about the financial budget to the United Nations organization, then Japan and Germany is second and third largest contributor to this budget, but they are also not being given the permanent membership status. And even what? You remember that this organization was formed in 1945 after end of World War II. And who was lost in this war? Basically Germany and Japan. So in the United Nations Charter, there is a mention of enemy state, and enemy state is referred as these state actually who was lost in the war. So that also represents how the UN Charter discriminates among the countries. Okay, so that is the point. And when we talk about India's call for the permanent seat, so India do have the required eligibility to have a permanent seat in the United Nations, and India all the time try to raise the idea to have an inclusion, to have a reforms in the United Nations Security Council. And why India tries to propose for the permanent seat, it is basically we have the bigger size of population. We have more than 140 crore of population, that is representing about 17 to 18% of the global population. Okay, and when we talk about the share of India's economy with respect to the world economy, so India is now the sixth largest economy in the world. Okay, so that also becomes a very good point to claim for the permanent seat of India. Okay, and also India via various peacekeeping mission tries to contribute to the United Nations. Okay, and you can see like various missions which was launched by United Nations, and India participated in that mission, and India also sent its troop for the sake of uh, rehabilitation and tackling the crisis. Okay, so that is the point. And when we talk about the challenges towards the United Nations security reforms, so what are the challenges if, let's say, members agree to reform the United Nations, but after that there is also a challenge regarding the United Nations security reforms. So what are the challenge? It is actually because the amendment procedure is very much tight and rigid. For example, to have a reform in UNSC, we need to reform the United Nations Charter, the basic document that establishes the United Nations. Okay, so for any amendment, it requires two-third majority of the overall membership for voting in United Nations General Assembly. First of all, United Nations General Assembly, which represents the member countries. Okay, so here there is a need to have acceptance of two-third majority for reforming the United Nations Security Council. That means 129 members need to have support regarding the reform resolution. And even what, there is a need that all the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council which have the veto right must also agree. And there is third condition as well, like even you had fulfilled the first two conditions, there is a need that there must be ratification by two-thirds of the member states, meaning that the resolution of reforms need to be ratified by separate member states from their parliament or from their legislature, and the number must be about two-thirds of the member states. Okay, so that is the point. That's why the reform related challenges becomes also difficult. That's why the article talks about like the reforms in the United Nations Security Council is like a debate that never ends, like repetition of songs, like repetition of debates, time to time. Okay, and also there is several issues that blocks the United Nations security reforms, and one of the issues is like rival countries. Let's say when we talk about India, India also wants permanent seats. India also wants United Nations Security Council reform. But do you agree that the China and the Pakistan will block India's representation? Yes, absolutely. Because they does not want to have India in the permanent seat, specifically when we talk about these two countries. Okay, and also the China monotonous power in the entire Asia will be disturbed. So China also does not want to have a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council, specifically for India. Okay, and when we talk about the countries in Latin America, Latin America represents basically the South African country. Okay, so here the Brazil have a say in the United Nations Security Council reforms, but Argentina and Mexico does not basically gets ready for Brazil to become the permanent seat member in the UNSC. Okay, and when we talk about Africa, Africa represents the country of 54 nations. Okay, so here we have the demand for two permanent seats, but there are many rivals here. Like we have the Nigeria, the largest democracy in Africa, also the largest economy. Okay, and also we have the countries like South Africa, Egypt. So who will lead in the permanent membership demand? That is also a important point of discussion. But there is another proposal that suggests that let's say that if this reform is not done, so you can do what, like create semi permanent members, but the tenure of these semi permanent members must be 10 years. Okay, like the present tenure is 2 years but needs to be extended to 10 years. But the member countries are not agreeing on this reform suggested. Why? Because even what, the veto power will be restricted to only 5 countries. That means despite we have a 10-year tenure, but the objective will be not fulfilled. So that is the point, that is the suggestion, and that is the end of the article. Now I have a question for you. Why China blocks India's participation in having the permanent seats to the UN? Okay, so you have to mention some of the points in the comment section. Now we are shifting to GS paper 3, and it is related to the latest meeting of GST Council, which was held recently. And we will see here the reforms which has been taken, basically the reforms which was much needed, and also there is a need to have better reform plan for the future, specifically related to the GST. So we will see what are the suggestions here. Okay, and we will also discuss the basics of the GST Council along with what is the concept of GST appellate tribunal. So we all are going to discuss in a good way. You will understand, you will learn, and remember, when we talk about the GST topic, it becomes very important for the UPSC mains, and even this year in 2023 economy paper, the question about the GST definitely had come. So you have to understand the basics. So when we talk about GST, it is basically what? It is basically indirect tax. Simply we say it applies on goods and services both, and it is a destination based tax, and also there is a concept here that one nation one taxation regime. So these are the basic ideas you already know. So what is the context here? That 52nd meeting of goods and services tax council was happened, and there was series of reforms which was taken, like slashing the GST on molasses from 28% to 5%. These are basically the items that are used to feed the animals. Okay, so it will help the animal feeder cut the cost, and also it will help the farmers to have a better income. Okay, and along with that, to ease up the cash flows for the sugar mills so that they can pay the farmers dues more faster. Along with, there is an important reform which is like very significant, is about not taxing the extra neutral alcohol. So here you have to understand about extra neutral alcohol. What is ENA means? So when we talk about ENA, basically it is the ingredient used for making alcohol. Okay, and what is the disputes about this issue is that this is ingredient to make alcohol, but when we talk about alcohol, then this item is out from the GST regime. Actually, the taxation on alcohol depends on the state government. It is not under the purview of GST. So what was happening was that uh, like on alcohol there was no taxation from the GST, but a state government tried to tax on the alcohol. And also, if the extra neutral alcohol, let's say, was taxed by the uh, central government, that means there will be a more burden on the alcohol making company, because they need to pay extra tax, like paying tax on the ingredients along with paying tax on the final product of alcohol. So that disturb the market competency of this alcohol. Okay, so that's why here the important decision which was taken in the GST council was that it will not tax the extra neutral alcohol. So when we talk about this ENA, like it is byproduct of sugar industry, and it is used as primary raw material for making alcoholic beverages. Along with, it is also used in manufacture of cosmetics, personal care products, along with in the paint industry and the pharmaceutical product. What actually I am saying, that you should remember the usage of this content, that is ENA, because UPSC in the prelims definitely try to ask the application based question, so you have to remember it. Okay, and in yesterday lecture we talked about the petroleum uh, coke, that is pet coke. So this type of question, the applications on these topics may be asked, so you should remember all that. Okay, and what is important point here to note, that even the GST appellate tribunal is now going to come, because it was a long pending reform, but due to the various meetings of the GST council, this has been constituted, and the decision on the chairperson and the members was taken in this meeting as well. Okay, so this is a very important reforms, because this will handle the disputes regarding the GST bills that prevails between the companies, okay, and the government. And also when we talk about the basics of it, section 109 of the GST Act 2017 mandates the constitution of this appellate tribunal, but it was not created from that time. So recently government basically created this GST appellate tribunal and the structure of it, and it will be a specialized body to resolve the disputes related to the GST laws at the appellate level. Okay, and the principal bench of this tribunal will be located in New Delhi, and each state can decide on the number of benches or boards that they require. Maybe one state may have two benches, one state have three benches. It will be depending on the state that they require, but there is a need to have a GST council approval for that. Okay, and when we talk about the composition, so the principal bench and the state boards would have a 2 technical and 2 judicial members each, with equal representation from the center and the state, and all the 4 members would not sit for hearing each case. It depends on the threshold of value or dues involved. But there was an issue that was not taken care of. That was the issue of GST compensation cess. When we talk about cess, it is basically taxation on tax. Okay, like let's say we have a product and there is a 28% GST on it. When we talk about applying cess here, that means on the taxable amount, like let's say 100 rupees product, 28% taxation, so there will be 28 rupees as a GST tax. So cess means you are again applying tax on the taxation amount. So why cess is collected? It is all because to have a extra source of income for funding certain projects or for funding certain initiatives or the schemes. Okay, so that is the benefit of cess. So there was a creation of GST compensation cess since the beginning of GST regime. Why this cess was created? So that any revenue rose arising from the implementation of the GST regime to the state should be compensated from this amount that will be coming from the cess. Okay, so it was originally for the 5 years, but due to the impact of COVID-19, the revenue collection was drastically reduced, and that's why a state was not able to get their desired revenue from the GST collection, and there was a need to have a GST compensation because this provision was included in the GST regime. So originally it was to end after 5 years, but to compensate further due to the impact of COVID-19, it was extended till March 2026. So there is a need to have a broader rationalization of GST complex multiple rate structure, and for that GST regime needs a holistic reform plan. Like one of the issue that remains in news, to bring the excluded items like electricity, petroleum, alcohol into the GST regime to make it more one tax, one regime structure. Okay, so that is the end of the article. Hope you understood. Hope you understood the concerns related to the GST and the reforms which is needed, because this is the important topic. So I discussed in detail, and we have an idea about the GST Council basics. Okay, so when we talk about GST Council, it is a constitutional body and it has been established by a constitutional amendment of 101, meaning 101st Constitutional Amendment Act 2016. And what is the aim of this GST Council? They basically meets time to time and makes recommendation regarding the implementation of GST, like approving or disapproving the tax items. Okay, and also as per the article 279A clause 1, the GST council was constituted by president. And when we talk about the members, we have the representation from the center, we have the representation from the states. So from the center we have union finance minister as the chairperson, and along with we have the union minister of state from the center. Okay, and from the state we have the representation of minister in charge of finance or taxation, or any other minister can become a member, but each state can nominate this member. Okay, so that is the point. And when we talk about the GST judicial mechanism, let's say there is a dispute arises regarding GST. Okay, so where the person can complain if not satisfied with the local court. So there is a provision of appeal, and it can be raised to a higher court. And you can see that first of all from lower court they will go to adjudicating authority, they will go to appellate authority, they would go to further appellate tribunal. If not satisfied, they will visit high court. If not, then we have the Supreme Court and as the apex court to decide on that matter. Okay, so that is the basic. And now we are coming to the short news that we have discussed initially. The first topic, it is related to the pending appeals with the information commissioners. So when we talk about the information commission, it is basically central information commission or the state information commission. This has been created under the right to information act 2005. Okay, and why they was created? To bring transparency, accountability. Okay, so that informations which is demanded from the government should be given from the government, and the authority that controls all of that, it is basically the central information commission at the central level and the state information commission at various states. But there is issue like the pendency of the cases is basically increasing. Okay, you can understand like more than 3 lakh appeals and complaints are pending in 27 state information commissions across the country, and the maximum number was reported in Maharashtra, followed by Karnataka. So, what are the issues? Why there is increasing pending appeals? First of all, we have the various state information commission. They are dysfunctional. Okay, you can see like the information commission of Jharkhand, Telangana, Mizoram, Tripura. They are basically dysfunctional, and also there are other issue like in a certain other information commissioners, we have the lack of chairperson. That why we are calling it headless. Okay, like the central information commission currently does not have chairman, and along with the state information commission of Manipur, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Bihar, Punjab, they are lacking the chairman. So that is also a very important concern. And now the next news is about the Operation Ajay, and you are seeing the issue which is occurring in the uh, Palestine-Israel conflict, that is the Gaza Strip, and the surprise attack by the Hamas. And because of that, in retaliation, the Israel actually declared a state of war. And not only that, they are basically dealing with the crisis. So the Indians, which is strained there, uh, they needs to be secured. So to bring them back to the home, the External Affairs Ministry launched Operation Ajay. So what is Operation Ajay in simple terms? To bring back the Indians in the conflicted zone of Israel uh, territory. Okay. So now we are next news is about the Vizhinjam port, and the Vizhinjam port is located in Kerala, and you should remember that for the prelims itself. Okay, so that is the end of the article. When we talk about the solution related to the prelims question, the answer is 1, 2, and 4. Now, why the option 3 is correct? Incorrect. It is all because you can see the statement. The Constitution of India defines civil contempt and criminal contempt. So, the civil contempt or the criminal contempt is not defined by the Constitution. It is defined in the Contempt of Court Act. Okay, so that is the point. And one important like question that UPSC do focuses on, like it is defined in the Constitution or not, and mostly these type of statements remains wrong. So we can eliminate statement 3 here, and option C and D got eliminated. And when we talk about option A and B, so when we talk about option 4, you can see here the parliament is vested with the powers to make laws on the contempt of court. So that is a reality, because parliament has the power to make the laws. So the parliament can make it. It has the power, and the Contempt of Court Act, it is actually made by the parliament itself. So that is the end of the article. Hope you understood. And if you are liking our initiative, please do like, share, subscribe. Thank you, friend. Thank you very much for the discussion. Thank you.